always been interested in the supernatural, and am convinced that ghosts do exist. Unfortunately, I've never seen nor felt one. I am, however, overly curious and try on occasion to find one. I have a friend that often accompanies me, but sometimes she gets too afraid to press on. She can feel their presence and bows out. I think she can feel them. And if she perceives them as evil, well, she just quits. She has a gift that I can only wish I had. I, on the other hand, don't possess that gift, and as a result, am fearless. I suppose I ought to get on with my stories. Again, I've never seen a ghost, but listen to this. My curiosity in the supernatural goes years back. When I was younger, I attended a university in southern Illinois. I had a friend named Tanya, whose parents lived in a supposedly haunted house. They claimed that a ghost lived in the attic of their home. I don't remember the spirit's name at this time, but I do remember that they claimed that she liked to play with the hangers in the attic, and that they could hear her slamming doors and climbing to the stairs to the attic at night. There were other farther-fetched claims as well, but they said that whenever something strange happened, they would always have the association of the smell of lilacs. It was, apparently, the popular perfume of the time when this girl passed. No explanation was given as to the events of her passing. Anyway, I was invited to sleep in the attic of their home one night. I was apprehensive at first to be able to relax enough to sleep, but in time, I started to drift away. Just as sleep began to overtake me, I heard a very loud and unsettling rustling in front of my face. I instantaneously turned on a light right next to me. Nothing was there. The memory of that sound made it very difficult for me to concentrate on sleeping again. But after what seemed to be about 2 hours, I started to succumb to sleep again. As I drifted again came that sound, louder this time. I stayed calm for a few minutes to be sure this was actually happening. I stayed still, but pulled my eyes open to see if anything was there. There was no light. My eyes were wide open. I was fully awake, and the noise persisted. Again, I turned on the light, and there was nothing there. Once the light came on, the noise ceased instantly. This time, I decided to feign asleep. I turned out the light, closed my eyes, and regulated my breathing. I did everything like sleeping, without actually sleeping. Eventually, I even got my heart to stop pounding. Hell, I was scared, but managed to seem oblivious. Once again, it started, and in an instant, I turned on the light yet again. There, in front of my eyes, was a mass, a ball of white moths, about the size of a softball. As soon as the light hit them, they flew straight into the shadows of the room. Not like moths fly, they flew straight course into the various shadows and disappeared. They disappeared into shadows, not holes or cracks. They weren't real. No moth could do what I'm trying to describe here. Once they disappeared, my fear was gone, and has been ever since. I'm no longer afraid of ghosts. I believe that if a spirit chooses to stick around, it is because it, or they, have something to tell you. I'm convinced that these moths were presented to me by Lilac Girl, and I believe that she showed them to me only because she wanted to be acknowledged, not feared. I think that if I were to return to this house, she'd show me the moths again. This time, I'd be much more appreciative and a lot less afraid. I'd see it as a welcome to an old friend than as a threat to a newcomer. I think she just needs someone to talk to. She must have been terribly lonely. Moth story number 2. About a year after that incident, I was still in college. I was on the 16th story of my dorm, cramming for finals. I happened to look out onto the ledge outside the window, where sat a beautiful green wood moth. I knew it meant something, but at the time, not what. My roommate walked into the study area and informed me that I had a call from my mother. I went into my room and answered the phone by saying, "Is Gran dead?" My mom was speechless for a time. Then she said, "How did you know?" I didn't answer. You see, my Gran was 103 when she died. For years, she didn't know my name. She always just called me Janine's son. Well, on the day that her husband died at 98 years old, I took her for a long walk around her house. She hadn't been out in years. During that brief walk, I had found a feather in a greenwood moth's wing. I saved them as a token of that day. After that walk, she never called me Janine's son anymore. She called me that nice boy who took me for a walk about twice. Then, she just called me that nice boy. When I heard of her passing that day, I made arrangements to get to her funeral. I did, and upon viewing her casket, I placed the feather and the wing on her body. I feel that she's still around and still views me as the nice boy. Once again, I must reiterate that I've never seen a ghost. I promise you, though, that they are real, and I don't need to see to believe. Just ask Grandma Chip. She's still there. Look for a moth. When you do, it'll be a greenwood moth. This is what I like to call motion pictures on the wall. The first time it happened was when I was about 6 years old. I had woken up in the middle of the night and crept into bed with my parents. I still couldn't sleep, and when I rolled over towards the wall, it appeared that someone was showing a movie on it. Hard to explain, but it was a dim, full-color, silent motion picture, like a living painting, of a man dressed like Henry VIII, talking to a woman being helped into a wide hoop frame that went under her dress. That was it. Then it ended. Totally harmless, but still, how the heck did it get there? I told my mom about it in the morning. I had tried to wake her up and Dad, but they were sound asleep. She said I was just hallucinating because I was so tired, but was still amazed at my description of the hoop skirt and undergarment, as I've never seen one before. Okay, fast forward 3 more years. My brother and I were staying with our folks at our grandparents' house. We kids begged to sleep in the dining room under the huge table, so we could pretend it was a fort. Again, in the middle of the night, I awoke to find a huge silent motion picture on the wall. This time, I was able to wake my brother up, and together we watched it. He stood up and looked out the window to see if someone was doing it from the outside. No, nothing. No source of light or anything. In fact, the shadow of his head didn't even show on the wall. It completely disappeared for a second. But then, I heard a noise coming from the hallway in the house. A really frightening, disturbing wailing. It was the scariest sound that I have ever heard in my life, like someone being butchered to death. Then, into the dining room came a black shadow. We only saw this shadow for about 40 seconds before it ultimately dissipated. I swear to God, the shadow looked as if it was wearing a top hat, and it was running around before ultimately dissipating, like I said. I don't know how this happened, but even my friend saw this at the time, and we were in the dining room like I said, but there's nothing to explain this away. Maybe it was connected to the silent motion picture I saw on the wall. In fact, I can almost guarantee the motion picture on the wall was actually a family of ghosts. Actually, it was a family of ghosts that were shadow people. That's what I truly believe. Of course, I'm guessing that this family of shadow people must have been a part of a huge tragedy, because it's apparent that something caused the scream to happen. Whatever the case it was, it didn't matter now. It turned into something harmless, and then became ruthlessly scary. I hope I never find out what exactly happened in the house. I'm not willing to face it. My second daughter was born on October 28th, 1986. She died of a sudden infant death syndrome 6 weeks later. She often lets us know she is still around by playing pranks, and sometimes allows other family members to see her. When the movie Pocahontas came out, my oldest daughter loved it. We bought her a Pocahontas talking bank. If you haven't seen the type of bank I mean, it is one with Pocahontas and Grandmother Willow. If you drop a coin in it, Grandmother Willow starts talking. It has a button you can push for the same result. For about 3 months, this bank would start talking when no one was in the room with it. We kept the bank on a shelf in the bathroom above the sink. One morning, I was standing in front of the mirror shaving. The bank was 2 feet in front of me. But when the bank started talking, well, I don't often cut myself shaving, but this time. Another time my wife had washed her favorite shirt. It was loose-fitting and lightweight, perfect for working in her garden. She washed it, and I know I took it from the washer and put it in the dryer. When we took the load of clothes out of the dryer, the shirt was nowhere to be found. 3 months later, we found it in a small cabinet in our bedroom. We only use the cabinet for storing small things and rarely open it. I can't remember what I was looking for, but I opened the cabinet and there was the shirt, neatly folded. There was another time when my wife bought me some material to make me a couple of shirts. She brought it home and folded it and put it away in her sewing trunk to work on later. A week later, she opened her sewing trunk to begin the work, and the material was gone. 6 months later, we had forgotten about the material, and my wife was going to sew another project. She opened her trunk, and there was the material, replaced once again by my second daughter. My youngest daughter, now 11 years old, often sees her sister either in the house or out in the yard. She sometimes talks to her, and I mean she carries on a conversation. My oldest daughter has also seen her. I've seen her once. She was standing by the living room in the entrance of the hallway. I was coming out of the kitchen and saw her in my peripheral vision. When I looked up, she vanished. I can say that those on the other side do not stay children forever. My second daughter, who we lost when she was a baby, now appears to us as a lovely 16-year-old. Then again, perhaps a spirit can appear in any form. Perhaps my daughter appears the age she would, so we can recognize her. It may seem strange to some people that we live with a spirit as a normal part of the family, but that's exactly what she is, and we love her the same as our 2 children who are here in the flesh. Being of Cherokee and Iraqi descent, we do not fear spirits, but try to understand them. They are not here to harm, only to guide. My great-grandfather was a self-proclaimed ghost hunter. I've heard many stories growing up from my grandfather of his exploits in the field. Now, he wasn't the whole mystical crystals and holy water type. His theory on ghosts was one shared by many. They are here for something. Either a lost item from their past, or a deed left undone. The way he went about the hunt was fairly simple-minded. He would follow tales of haunted houses, graveyards, bridges, whatever, and research them as well as he could, and try to figure out what the ghost wanted, and give it to them. At the time in history when he was doing this, many people were offering rewards for someone to step in a haunted house for a night, so he would move in and spend however much time it took. Not all of the stories my grandfather told were successes. but one I remember vividly was, I will tell it to you now, and then I'll relate my own experience. Back in the 1800s, my great-grandfather was a ghost hunter. He mainly did it for the reward money offered to sleep in haunted houses at first, but a growing need to help soon took over. One such place was a farmhouse on the Oklahoma prairie, where a woman in white, I know, stereotypical ghost story, would be seen walking down the staircase and out onto the front porch. It was one of those old wraparound types that goes all the way around the house. Once on the front porch, she would pace the length of the front of the house a few times and then disappear. Other times the woman would be crying, but you could never pin down the sound. My great-grandfather moved into this house and lived there for about 2 months while trying to figure out what the ghost wanted. Many times he would be sleeping in the entryway of the house, at the foot of the stairs, trying to catch a glimpse of the lady. After about 3 weeks of research, by talking to all the people that lived nearby, we are talking about 1800s Oklahoma nearby, and I guess that would be within a 10-mile radius. He found an older couple who had known the original builders of the house and every family that lived there since. They began relating the story of the house to him as best they could. It seems that the first lady to live in the house had only 2 children, a boy and a girl, and when the girl was about 16, she fell in love with one of the local farmer's sons. After a few months, the marriage was arranged, and events were set into motion. They got married in the spring in the front room of the house. They built their own small house on some of the land and lived there for a few years, until the girl's mother got ill. Then they moved in to stay and take care of her and the family. The brother had recently joined the army and was away. After a few months, the mother passed away, and the girl and her husband also became ill. The father was left to take care of them and soon became ill as well. They all died after about a year of fighting the illness and trying to keep the house and land cared for. After that, the boy, now serving in the army, came back to collect any belongings and dispense with the house. He sold the house to the local bank and left to live in Texas. About a year later, a young couple moved into the house and lived quite happily for about 3 years until they started seeing the lady walking down the stairs and along the porch. They soon moved away and let the loan default back to the bank. A few other families had lived in the house, but all moved out soon after, and the bank was stuck with this house. Finally, the owner of the bank decided to offer a reward for anyone to sleep in the house to prove it wasn't haunted. Well, empowered with this knowledge, my great-grandfather went back to the house and set watch for the ghost. After seeing her a few times, he noticed she seemed to be looking for something on the porch, so he got some digging equipment and began to dig under the porch. After about 2 weeks of digging, he found a small gold ring. Thinking that had to be what the ghost wanted, he placed it on the railing of the porch and waited that night to see what happened. Nothing happened for about another week. Then he was sitting on the porch, enjoying the good weather, when he caught sight of her walking down the stairs. Not daring to move, he watched as she walked the length of the porch until she came even with the ring. She turned and seemed to look at the ring for a long time, then just vanished. He spent another week in the house and never heard so much as a creak and never saw the woman again. A ring he put under the first step of the stairway, and as far as anyone knows, is still there. That is how my grandfather related that story to me, not in the scary ghost story boogity-boo way, just a plain and simple fact, a piece of family history. Now my story. I was about 18 and living with a friend of mine and his mother. We all lived in a small house. Some would call it a shotgun shack because you could shoot a shotgun through the front door and not hit anything but the back door. It was all one room, only separated by a small wall that ran about 3 feet from each outer wall. You could walk straight from the living room to the kitchen, going through the bedroom in a straight line. One night, I was sleeping on the floor in the living room when I was awakened in the middle of the night. I don't know if it was a sound that woke me or just a bad feeling, but when I woke up, I happened to be turned so that I looked straight into the bedroom. I saw what looked like sheer curtains lit by moonlight blowing outside beside the bed that my friend's mother was sleeping in. I had an eerie feeling, but being half asleep, didn't think anything of it, and promptly fell back asleep. When I woke up in the morning, I remember what had happened and looked at the wall, expecting to see an open window. The problem was, there was no window on that wall, not anywhere in the house. All the windows are on the opposite wall, so it couldn't have been a curtain. Later that day, I asked my friend's mom about it, and she told me that it was her father, that he came to help her when she had a bad night. She had terrible arthritis. She said that she never saw him, but could feel his presence. I had many other strange experiences in the house. Rocking chairs that didn't need anyone sitting in them to rock, things disappearing and reappearing in strange places when no one was home. To say the least, I was glad when I got an opportunity to move out. Hey Phantoms, I'm so glad that you didn't move out so you could watch my YouTube video. Guys, you are so amazing. You helped me watch a video, and that is the most amazing thing that you can do for me. Comment, like, share, and subscribe. My voice nearly died, and I hope that you enjoyed my rhyme. I don't know what I'm saying, guys, as usual. Gonna not edit anything out. I feel a little under the weather, I guess. I have a stuffy nose, so hopefully the video turned out as well as it could be. Seriously, my voice is really changing directions. It's like going left and right, diagonally, and I can't even talk. Well, everybody knows I can't even talk on a usual day, so it doesn't even matter now, because I'm even worse off than I was a couple days ago. Yeah. Guys, I'm just gonna end this. This is getting so awkward. Like I said, my talking has not been really great. So, guys, seriously, share this video across all social media. I'm definitely gonna need it because my videos are just, not doing well. And, I'm really thankful that I got to at least get this video out to you guys. So, guys, seriously, let me know your favorite story in this comment section of my video and just let it loose. Let it go. And let me know exactly what you're thinking. Like literally the first thought that pops into your head when you hear the first story, or the second story, or third story, or fourth story, and kabloom! I don't know what that means, but guys, okay, I really gotta go. I'm sounding so weird and cringy. So, I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you, and goodbye, but not for long.